you for joining us this afternoon for our safety committee meeting. Today we will be discussing fire safety. Please note that this will be recorded and available for public consumption. This afternoon, we are honored to be joined by firefighter Robin Summerling. She's joining us from the New York City Fire Department Fire Safety Education Unit. The presentation will include a Q&A session. Please feel free to utilize the chat to jot down any questions that you may have, and they will be addressed. Without further ado, please welcome firefighter Robin Summerling.
If we can unmute Ms. Robin Summerling, we will go ahead and give it to the FDNY Fire Safety for the presentation.
Okay, she should be a co-host. Give me 1 minute.
Hi, everyone. Everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I see that there are some participants that have Spanish. Do you need me to pause at any point for a translation?
No, those are our Spanish interpolation. They're here to assist, but they checked, nobody on here needed. So we'll check back in a little while.
Okay. All right, so then if everybody is ready, then I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So hi, I am Robin. I'm a firefighter with FDNY. I've been a firefighter for the last 4 years. I recently transitioned to the Fire Safety Education Unit, and we now educate the community on home fire safety and things that you can do to prevent and make your home safer, and what you can do in the event of a fire. So I'm just gonna start with some of my little knickknacks here that I have on the table, and explain how you can take precautions in your own home. So right here in the front, we have smoke detectors. Now this is something very basic that everybody should have in their home. These smoke detectors, they're good for 10 years. You install them in every room that someone is sleeping in, and we recommend that you also have them in a common room as well as the kitchen. The older smoke detectors are good. You check the batteries every 6 months. The 10-year smoke detectors, they come with a 10-year good battery, and you just test them every month. You press the button and it'll alarm, and that tests it, and you make sure that it's good. For those of the members of the community who may be hard of hearing, we have these other two options here. This smoke detector here, this is a puck. It goes in between the mattress and the box spring, and what happens is it vibrates. So if you can't hear a smoke detector, this will vibrate to alert you that there may be an unsafe condition in your home, to alert you to get out. So what happens is that smoke detectors give you a good warning to be able to get out of the house, whereas if you don't have a smoke detector, your chances of being harmed in a fire increase greatly. 3 out of 5 home fire-related deaths are caused by fires in a house where there is no smoke detector. So I'm going to now move into our 3 main, what we see most of fire-related causes. So what we most commonly see is kitchen fires. Again, like I said, you want to have a smoke detector in the kitchen. I'm guilty of it myself. I have one in my dining room, which is adjacent to my kitchen. I was recently informed that that's not good enough. And I'm a distracted cook. I like to walk away. I also use mishmash of pans and pots. So one of the things that we like to talk about is that we have these pans, and like as time goes on, you don't have a pan that has a fitted top. The safest pan that you can use has a tight fitted lid, so that if you do, say, overheat oil in a pan, right, as oil smokes and it heats up and it gets to a certain temperature, it's going to flame. you can put that out by putting a fitted lid onto a pan. And what happens is you extinguish the fire by cutting off its oxygen source. Oxygen feeds a fire. So one of the things that we like to say, and we have, we recommend, is that you keep your cooking space clear of any paper towels, any towels, like I like to use a dish rag over my shoulder, and, just a few weeks ago, it kind of slipped off and I didn't realize that it was touching the flame under the pot. So I almost had a fire in my own kitchen, and I realized that maybe I shouldn't be putting a dish rag on my shoulder while I'm standing at the stove cooking. In the event that there is a fire in a pan and you don't have a fitted lid like these, what you can do is, if you have baking soda, you can take that baking soda and put it over the fire, right? And it will, same thing as the lid, cut off the oxygen source for the fire. So effectively, the baking soda will put out a fire as well. One of our favorite things that we like to say is that everybody should have a fire extinguisher in their house. Fire extinguishers, you can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's. They're typically around $25. This fire extinguisher here, this big red one, this is an ABC fire extinguisher. It will make a mess, but you pull the pin and it's powder. But this will put out a paper fire, your electrical fire, your grease fire. The last thing we want to do is we don't want to put water onto a grease fire. That's just gonna potentially spread the fire, and then it's, it goes up the wall, and now it gets to be bigger than excuse me, we can handle. So, a fire extinguisher under your sink, next to the stove is always recommended. Like I said, these are $25 typically. You can get one of these smaller ones. It does the same thing. $25 from Home Depot or Lowe's will, protect your home that much more. Our next biggest cause of fires is we see a lot of electrical fires. And what we see a lot of is these power strips. How many of you have a power strip in your home? Right, almost everybody. And we use them, right? I put my phone charger, I've got my electric heater, I've got, I don't know, my headphone charger, I've got my laptop, right? So we overload these. These get overloaded, they get hot. And what happens is it's an electrical fire starts, and typically these sit next to a nice wall because we want to keep them hidden, right? We put our TVs on them, so they're typically behind an entertainment center. What we recommend with the power strips is you don't put your major appliances. You're not putting a microwave on this. You're not putting an air conditioner. Anything that heats or cools, if it warms something up, if it cools something down, you're not putting it on one of these power strips. Another thing is, people like to buy these from the dollar store. There are certified versions of these. Certified versions are tested by Underwriters Laboratories. They will have this symbol. It's a holographic sticker on the back. If you see the sticker, and this is the letters inside the sticker. These are tested and they are warranted for certain voltage. Again, like I said, we're not putting a refrigerator, we're not putting an air conditioner, you don't put a space heater on these. Like I said, you heard me say, like, I put my space heater on these, but I need my feet to be warm. If you're going to do that, we recommend a 3-foot diameter from anything around the space heater. During the winter, we do see a lot of space heater fires, right? This is a space heater here. A lot of times, these, like this space heater, I don't know if you, can you see this little button here on the bottom? still see there's a little button here, right? So if this is on the flush on the floor and it gets knocked over, this button releases, this automatically shuts off. So this space heater, you want to buy a space heater that has that automatic shut off so that, God forbid, that gets knocked over and it gets knocked over onto a blanket or, you know, a rug or a carpet, it automatically shuts off and you don't have to worry about a potential fire breaking out. So our third main cause of home fires that we see is smoking, whether that be your nebulizer machine should be okay. Is that the big one? No, the nebulizer is okay. It doesn't heat anything up and it doesn't cool anything down. That's not a lot of voltage. So our third main cause of fires that we see is smoking. So everybody is always warned, you know, you smoke, you're standing up, you're sitting up, you're not, you know, you don't get comfortable on the couch so that the cigarette doesn't fall off. You know, cigarettes flame and they smolder for hours after you're done with it. So if you put it into a garbage bin, anything combustible in there does have the potential to, excuse me, does have the potential to burn. Excuse me. We recommend having a deeper ashtray and a heavier ashtray so it doesn't get knocked over. That way you don't spill the ashes. And you're not obviously going to smoke and be on oxygen. In terms of this information here, does anybody have any questions? Nebulizer machine right next to the bed. I'm going to say you need it, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, so then I'm going to go and continue to what the building types are. Here in the city, we have 2 building types that we like to classify. We classify either a fireproof building or we classify a non-fireproof building. If you are unsure of your building type, you can go outside and look, or you can call 311. Typically, a non-fireproof building will have fire escapes. So if you go outside and you see a fire escape on your building, then your building's not fireproof, which means that it does have combustible material. So one of the things that we recommend for a fireproof building, if there is a non-fireproof building, if there's a fire in a non-fireproof building, you're going to exit the building as safely as possible. Meaning, if the fire is on a floor below you, 2 floors below you, you're gonna go and take the staircase. You're not going to take the elevator unless you absolutely have to. And you're going to attempt to exit the building. If you live in a fireproof building, one of the things that we recommend is that you stay and attempt to shelter in place. If the fire is the floor below you, you are typically safer in a fireproof building in your own residence. What you can do is you can take a wet towel and put it under the door, make sure the windows are closed, and stay in your apartment. If you have a fire in your building and it's a non-fireproof building, when you exit the building, you need to have a meeting spot and go to a meeting spot. So typically you want to have a plan for all of the residents in your family, your family members. You all set up a meeting point where you can go and you can meet. That way you're not missing anybody, or if there is somebody missing, you know, and you can go and notify the firefighters too that there's someone missing and they can go and find them. Practice these plans. Okay, you're gonna want to practice, because practice makes perfect, and as many times as you practice, you can go ahead and excuse me. If you practice, the more familiar you are, it then becomes second nature. So if you have a fire, everybody panics, and it then becomes second nature, and it's almost like you know the back of your hand and you can find your way to your meeting point. One of the things that I was informed, your community may have mobility issues. So there is a program within the fire department where you can go to your local firehouse. I believe I saw the location for this church. Was it Merritt Boulevard, 222nd, right? And Merritt? Anybody? Does anybody know the local firehouse by them? Just a minute. Okay, so what happens is that firefighters get information about buildings. So say there's a handicapped person that lives on the 5th floor that may not be able to get out of the building. What you can do is ahead of time, go ahead and notify the firehouse that is responding to your residents and let them know that they can put it in their computer system so that when someone does call 911, it pops up on our end, it pops up. Okay, so I'm gonna put in here, the CIDS. And you inform the officer on duty. And you tell them, I have someone who needs help getting out in the event of a fire, and what they'll do is they'll put it into the computer system. CIDS stands for Critical Information Dispatch System. Correct. So when we get dispatched, we automatically have the information, which gives us a heads up to potentially expedite getting someone out of the building. Yes. So also, we have a program here in the city that we go and we install free smoke detectors. So if you don't have a smoke detector, it's okay. We can come, and what happens is you have either the fire department or the Red Cross, and we come out and we install for free a free smoke detector. And we will put one into every room where someone sleeps and into the common rooms. So I'm going to put the link into the chat as well for that. And if you don't have a smoke detector, go ahead and make an appointment. You put your information into in, and someone will reach out to you, and you can make an appointment to have someone come in and install the smoke detector. Okay, so I don't have any more information unless anybody has questions. Do you know what number it is? Is it anyone? Okay, so does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have specific information that I can give them?
Question regarding the doors and the attachments that they're making, so I guess the doors can slam and stay shut and all of the different things. Are there things that we need to buy, or should we just, or are all apartments mandated to now make sure to put these in? Like, how can we make sure our doors are closed and stay closed so that nothing else, the fire doesn't get out into other places if we do have that situation?
You were talking about the self-closing doors?
Yes.
They should, I believe the newer apartments, they're mandated to have those. The older apartments, they may be grandfathered in, but that's something that should be a code. And that's something, if you call 311, you can ask about what the building code is, and they'll be able to give you more information. I'm not 100% sure about what the mandate is for that. And building
Okay.
code, that's something with the buildings department.
I do have one more question.
Mhm.
I'm also a parent of a special needs child, and I live on the 5th floor in our building. I
Okay.
literally freak out when I think about if there is a time where I have to take him down that escalator. I mean, the fire escape. Do they have any information that can kind of help us out as parents that might not freak the child out, or what we might be able to do if we're put in a situation with a special child to have to go down the fire escape?
What area do you live in?
I live in Queens,
In
Briarwood.
Briarwood. Is the closest firehouse over there on Union Turnpike? Is that the one?
It might be. It
I
might.
would say go to them and let them know that you have a special needs child and that you live on the 5th floor and that you would like to, again, so this critical information dispatch system, that will give them the heads up to come and, they'll be knocking on your door to see if you need assistance in exiting the building. In terms of stuff that things that you could do with you and your child, what you can do is you can practice. I'm not saying go down the fire escape, but familiarize them with the fire escape and what to do. And kind of have a plan to exit the building. There's an interior staircase, right? There's multiple interior staircases, and I think those buildings have at least 2 on each side, right?
We have interior, but if something were happening in the hallway, we'd be forced to use the exterior.
Right.
Circle back with the fire department.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you to practice going down the fire escape because that's extremely dangerous.
Right.
And you should really only do that if you have to. Again, just kind of try and familiarize them with it as much as possible.
Okay.
And have a plan. If there's something going on in the hallway and it's small enough that, it's maintainable, what I would recommend is putting the towel again on under your, like by your door to kind of slow things down and make sure the door is closed. And then, the fire department is not far from you. And if you really have to, then that's when you would utilize the fire escape.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Before we recognize the 2 hands on, I just want the Spanish interpretation to check in to see if anybody need translation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, the following message is going to be in Spanish. Buenas tardes a todos, gracias por estar acá. En estos momentos estamos chequeando si hay alguna persona en la sala que necesite interpretación en español. Por favor, si necesita interpretación en español, active su micrófono y anúncienos. Nuevamente, si hay alguien en la sala que necesite interpretación en español, por favor, puede indicarlo activando su micrófono. It looks like we don't have anybody in need of interpretation at this time.
Okay, so I'm going to relieve you at 18:38 hours. Thank you. Have a good night, both of you. Ms. Husband, you want to check your microphone real quick?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I want to go to Ms. Joanne Jones. You have a question?
Yes, thank you. I learned so much just from this presentation. Thank you for your information that you provided. So my question is around, I live in a building that doesn't have a fire escape, but as you were stating, there are 2 exits. And I live with a son that is on the spectrum of autism. And the thought of him having to go out of a window is frightening, or down a ladder. What would be my recourse to get out of the building with my son?
You said you don't have a fire escape?
No, I don't.
So your building then is more likely fireproof. It's not, if it's a fireproof building, we recommend to shelter in place. Typically you are safer. If the fire is not in your apartment, you're going to shelter in place.
Okay.
So that would be the the wet towel by the door and to make sure the door is closed.
Okay, second part to this question. You mentioned, I did take a screenshot of the Red Cross information. When in my apartment, there's only one space for a fire alarm, carbon monoxide alarm. So how would they come in if I was to reach out to this resource? How would they come in to put it in the other rooms in the apartment?
So if you click on the link,
Okay,
someone will, we come, and what the guys do is they'll install them. So they'll put them, typically they're over the doorway, and they come with the drills and the screws to install them themselves.
okay, so basically reach out. And lastly, we just got mandated from my building management to put a fire safety notice on the back of our door in the event of a fire. So I don't know if this is this something that's being done citywide or just building?
By fire safety notice, what kind of fire safety notice?
So
Like
it's some of the things you already stated. The fire is in your apartment, there's specific bullets. And if the fire is not in your apartment, there's specific protocols they list here. And they mention that this is something that we have to put on the back of our door. I mean, it's a lot of the information you gave, but I was just wondering if this is something that's being done citywide.
I'm not familiar with that. That might be something from the building specifically. I have not heard of that. I can get the information, then what I can do is I can reach out to Ms. Husbands and with the information, but that's something I've never heard of that.
Okay, I'm sorry, one last thing. My fire department that's right near me, which my son is already registered, is the Engine 69 Ladder 28. Have you heard of that?
The Bronx, right? No, that's Manhattan?
No, that's in Harlem, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so you said that they already have him on the CIDS?
Yes, because, you know, in the event that something happens to me or, you know, he's having an episode, they understand that there's a child in here with special needs, you know, you're safe, but, you know, he may be just having an episode, but he's in there being recorded just for that specific reason, to be alert.
One thing that I may also recommend is to maybe try to get him familiar with the firefighters and to see what they look like with their gear on. I know that for any age of child, it is a bit unnerving and it's scary when they're fully geared up, when we're fully geared up. You know, the mask is loud, the helmets and the colors, it's very unfamiliar. So I would say maybe try and get him familiar if they will do that and have him see at least what they look like when they're geared up. Yes,
that is very important. It's funny you mentioned that, because as a child, for some reason, there's a song, Fire Truck. There's a you know, child song that he's memorized. So he's been well versed on firemen. You know, who doesn't love a fireman when they see him? So he's just, you know, that's just the point. But thank you for that information. Well reserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Daniels, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question, a statement actually, in regards to the fire safety rules that she said, I guess the manager of her building placed on her door. I had the same thing happen to me, but they didn't do that till after we had a fire. Like I was in a fire literally in February. And I'm in one of those buildings where we don't have no fire escape. So this is supposed to be a fire safety building because I'm in one of the newer buildings that were built maybe about 10 years ago or so. So it's supposed to be fireproof. So that's why we don't have no fire escape.
How tall is this building?
Right, it's about over 10 years old, but I only been here for almost 3 years.
How tall? How many stories?
8 stories.
So typically, fireproof and non-fireproof really just means that they're not built with combustible material. Like your fireproof buildings are built with steel, cinder block, cement. Whereas your non-fireproof buildings are gonna be buildings like your brownstones, your, the row frame, detached, like a single family home.
Right.
Those are built with wood, right, and other material that is going to burn. When we say fireproof, we just mean that fireproof is not the stuff in your apartment or inside the residence, that all of that, like your chairs, your couches, tables typically today, they're not made out of wood anymore, they're made out of synthetic material. So what happens is they burn a lot faster and they burn a lot hotter. So when we say it's easier to, safer to shelter in place, what we mean is that the fire is not going to spread outside of that apartment. So everybody is familiar with the fire from January, right? January 9th, 2022, the Twin Peaks fire.
Yes.
So that building, that is a fireproof building. What happened with that building and where we had the most fatalities was in the stairwell. So the reason why we say to shelter in place is because the people that, the casualties from that fire, they were not in that apartment. What happened was the residents of that apartment, they left the door open to their apartment. And then not only did they leave the door open to the apartment, but the door to the stairwell was, I believe the door to the stairwell was broken and it was propped open. So what happened was it created a flow path for the smoke. So the fire was in one apartment and the smoke traveled. And not only did it travel, but it traveled very fast. And we know smoke rises and it's gonna go wherever it can. So it traveled down the hallway and then it traveled into the stairwell. And the people coming down from the floors above got caught in that smoke, and that smoke is extremely toxic. It's not your everyday, like your wood smoke. This is synthetic material burning and it's toxic. And it only takes two breaths of you inhaling, and you're panicked, so you're breathing deep and you're rushing down the stairs, you're moving fast, you're exerting yourself. And that's where these people, unfortunately, they got caught in the stairwell. They didn't get caught on that floor where the fire was, they got caught on the floors above. It wasn't heat, it wasn't fire itself, it was smoke. So a lot of times when we have fatalities, it's not that they burn, that people pass away because they get burned, they pass away because they inhaled the smoke. And that's why we say the smoke detector is a great notification system. In terms of the notice that you're required to put, the mandate, is that something from the city or is that something from the building management itself?
I'm not sure, but I know they had to come in my apartment after we had the fire. Because first of all, because we are a fireproof building, the sprinkler alarm system came on, but that self-open and closed door, it didn't close. So it flooded all the way down the hall when the sprinkler system came on, and it flooded 3 floors down.
Right.
We had a big flood and everything. Even though nobody was seriously hurt, it was a lot of property damage.
From the water or from the smoke?
From the water, from the sprinkler. And this person left the apartment door open too. They was 2 doors down from me. Now I'm all the way in the corner. I'm not even near the stairs. So I stood in my house and my smoke alarm did not ring. I smelled the fire. It was 11 something at night. I peeked in the door, said, oh shoot, it's coming from there. I see the flood, the sprinkler just came on, closed my door back. And put the towel under my door and whatnot. And I was all right. But it was made a lot of damage. Like for 4 floors, it flooded because those self-closing doors did not work. They were still open.
Well, no, so the doors are not going to stop the water. They might slow it down a bit, but they're not going to stop the water. Unfortunately, we're very aware of that. When we are on an upper floor, that the apartments below do get damaged. And that's unfortunately something
I'm on the 5th floor too, and I'm all the way in the corner, so it's scary.
Yeah.
That fire was 2 doors down from me in February. I mean, we're all lucky because I saw so many fires like that one in January, even other ones in the past where people were not so lucky.
Yeah.
I thank God I didn't get burnt out. I didn't get hurt. Nobody got seriously hurt in here. You know, we was talking to each other after it happened, making sure everybody was okay. The landlord even knocked on our door the next day about the water damage. Did water go in your apartment underneath your door since the thing flooded in the hallways? And he checked the damages to see if we was okay. And that was nice.
Right, and it's, you know, it's always, you know, material things can always be replaced, but people can't. And I personally, for myself, I'd much rather have the people around me and have everybody be okay than have to worry about replacing a table or a chair or a couch or any type of electronics.
Exactly. As a child, I survived 2 fires myself. So I know what it feels like to be in a flaming, burning fire, like what those people dealt with. And luckily I survived twice.
Well, I'm very happy that you're okay.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
and thank you for letting me know about that program, the CIDS program, because I need to do that for my daughter. That was very informative.
Yes.
That's all I have to say.
That is something that it's an underutilized resource. And just really go to your, whatever the firehouse that's closest to your address, you know, just go there and tell them that you would like to, you know, you have something that you need on the CIDS or that you have, and they'll ask you. And the firefighters are, personally, I would not turn anybody away. And if, you know, just go back after a few weeks and make sure that they did, put the information in, so that way it is in the system.
Okay, thank you. I'm definitely going to utilize that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Firefighter Summerling, we have a few questions in the chat.
Yep, so,
Bill asked about what stated, which fire extinguisher to purchase /AD.
let me see if I can do this. I'm gonna zoom in on the. Okay. So this red I'm sorry. The red extinguisher, let me do this. It's an ABC extinguisher. So.
And is that at Home Depot as well?
Home Depot should have them. I know for sure that Lowe's does. And I'm gonna say more than likely, you could probably order them online as well. These days you could get anything. And really, so they come also with the instructions on them, but they have this pin here that you're gonna pull the pin. And when you pull the pin, you're gonna take the nozzle here and you're gonna aim for the base of the fire. You're not gonna aim towards the top. If you have a fire that's maybe 6 feet tall, you're not aiming at the top of the 6 feet. You're gonna aim at the base of the fire so that you can put the fire itself out and smother the fire. It's fairly simple. And unfortunately they are messy, but I'd rather have a mess than have to, you know, have anybody get hurt or have to relocate. So you can always clean up a mess, you can always replace belongings, but you know, you can't replace people.
Okay, we have another question from Marjorie Brenda. To enter my son into the CIDS program, must I go to the neighborhood firehouse or can I register online?
So the CIDS is something that's done by the individual firehouse. That's something you have to go to the firehouse to do. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna ask for the officer on duty and explain to him whatever your circumstances may be. And you're going and inform him that you would like to have whomever put onto the CIDS that you know, there's either a mobility issue or some egress issue, where you may not be able to get out, where you would need assistance. And they'll take the information down, and really, all you have to do is give them your address. So whatever the address is, apartment number, and they will go and put that in. And then in a few weeks, follow up and just make sure that it is in the system.
Okay, we have another question asking what kind of fire extinguisher is the white extinguisher?
It's the same. This is just a home fire extinguisher, and it doesn't have the nozzle. That's all.
Okay, another question, what does the acronym stand for? CIDS, S-I-D-S.
Critical Information Dispatch System. I can type that into because it's a lot.
Okay. And I just wanted to say, while you type that in, that my daughter's school is signed up with their local fire department. So for those kids, so I would implore any and every parent to talk to your principal and just to make sure that your school is also signed with CIDS.
So what the firehouses do is they go out, my firehouse does it a lot, and we go out and we inspect the building. We inspect apartment buildings, but what we do is we inspect the building itself to make sure that, the doors are functionable, that there's no garbage buildup blocking a fire safety door, closed like a self-closing door. We go and make sure that there's roof access. What we don't have access to is people's personal apartments. And I understand that, I wouldn't want firefighters coming in and checking my apartment. So it's really up to the community to inform us if there is something that we need to be aware of. And that's why when we go to a building and we do this inspection, we put in CIDS for the building, but we can't put it in for the apartment because we're unaware. So if a member of that building, a resident of that building goes to put the information for the CIDS into the system with the firehouse, that's just one extra layer of protection for that particular apartment.
That was a great added piece there. Thank you for that. Do we have any other questions? Feel free to ask Firefighter Sutherland.
So I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything
in the chat. Okay, I'm going to do it as well.
Okay.
When we go to the fire station, who is the person we're supposed to ask for again? I missed that again. Sorry.
The officer on duty.
Officer on duty.
And the firefighter is most likely going to say, is there something that I can help you with? And just, explain to them, and they'll go and they'll tell the officer, whether it be a lieutenant or captain, excuse me, and they'll take your information.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Joanne, for that. There any other questions? If there aren't any other questions, we are going to thank Firefighter Sutherland for the information. We truly appreciate the information that you've provided for us today. Hopefully, I must say that the CIDS, the information that you provided on CIDS will greatly, I believe, will greatly be beneficial to all communities, but particularly this community. And thank you again for being with us today. And thank you, D75 staff and parents for joining our meeting today. And I hope you have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Oh, wait, one thing, I'm sorry, there's a question, sorry. And if anyone missed any portion of the presentation, it will be uploaded on our site, on social media and our YouTube. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Good
Thank you.
night.
Have a good night, everyone. Very informative.
Yes, thank
Good
you very
night.
much. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. It was great.
Thank you. Hmm. Mhm. Mhm.